As the 2024 Olympics are now just a matter of days away, it is my absolute pleasure to speak to a gold medalist and now the new head coach at Oklahoma State Wrestling. I always joke with Daniel Cormier. I say I have to argue with him what's the real OSU. Is it Oklahoma State or is it Ohio State? Because I'm in Columbus. But for today, I'll let you say you are the real OSU. It is my great pleasure to speak once again to David Taylor. David, how are you?
I'm doing great.
How's coaching life treating you?
It's been really good. I've been down in Stillwater now for a little over 2 months, and the transition's been going really well.
Obviously, this was a massive move for you, taking over for a legend like John Smith. I watched your introductory press conference, and it just seemed like this was the perfect fit for you. But how did this, did this move, obviously moved really quickly after the Olympic trials.
Yeah, it did. The job, John retired. It was like maybe 2 weeks or 3 weeks before the Olympic trials, and the job was still vacant. And after the Olympic trials, I got reached out to by administration, and we interviewed, and from there things moved pretty quickly. A job like this is John had this job for 33 years. So my entire lifetime, the coach was a tenure here. So jobs like Oklahoma State, they come available not very often. So you stop what you're doing, you evaluate it, and you see if it's a good fit. And this was a good fit for me. Obviously excited to be here. And I just kind of keep going back and just kind of talk about it's an honor. It's a position that any and every head coach or anyone in wrestling aspire to get a position like this, and to be considered for it and to be here is it's pretty awesome.
Absolutely. Can I ask, when you got the offer, when you were kind of mulling over and kind of doing this decision, did you talk to your coach, Cael Sanderson? Because obviously, you were under one of the best. Well, let me just be honest, the best coach in college wrestling right now. In terms of championships, things he's accomplished. Did you have a conversation with him as you were taking this job?
Yeah, I did. As soon as I got reached out to, I immediately called him and said, hey, Oklahoma State reached out to me, and I'm going to entertain and listen to what they have to say. And I just try to be transparent with them the best that I could. Once I took the job, obviously things started to move, very quickly. But did the best that I could to keep them in the loop with what was going on. Obviously just spent the last 15 years of my life, there in State College and, around that coaching staff. So, it was a big move for my family, for me and my career. And, but obviously just really excited, for the opportunity to come to Stillwater and be a part of this historic program.
Absolutely. Now, I think we all knew, anyone who knows you and knows, as a fan of the sport, that, coaching was going to be in your future. But I know we spoke several months ago after the World Championships. You were talking about obviously the 2024 games, and you even hinted to me at that point, like you were still considering the potential of eventually doing MMA. But was it once the trials were done and you got this offer? I know you said, you decided, at that point, it was like, you had to decide right then, were you going to be a coach or were you going to continue on with your competitive career? Can I just ask the final decision of that? Because obviously you're coaching, you're not going to be competing, because I know what it takes to coach. That is a 100% full-time job between recruiting and actually coaching. And the wrestling season, I'm sure you're already gearing up. I've already seen stories about you gearing up. So was that tough to make that decision to basically say, I'm putting an end to my competitive career in all regards? Because obviously you're not going to be fighting MMA while you're coaching at Oklahoma State.
Yeah, I think that, you have a lot of emotions, going through it. And I've always said, I would compete as long as I had the fire. And, this year that fire started to just kind of go away. And, I've achieved everything that I wanted to achieve in my career, well beyond that. When I first started off, I'm like, man, you start off and you want to be a good wrestler, and then you set your goals. And I had the highest goals of being an Olympic gold medalist and, being a national champion, being a world champion, being an Olympic gold medalist. It's hard to continue to recreate that fire every single year. I was 33 years old. I'd achieved everything that I wanted to achieve. I got a young family. And so this year was a challenge to find that fire every day, and I think, when I competed in the Olympic trials, I just didn't compete with the fire that I'd always had. And so I think, I was sad and frustrated to lose, obviously, because that's just not something that I've been accustomed to doing. But also understanding, like, hey, maybe this is the end of it for me, and from a competitive standpoint. So, I think my wife was probably a little harder with the element of like that I was done competing, because our entire relationship, my wife has been right there along my side, helping me, and I, probably hard for the people around me, but I think probably knowing something else was next, and this job came available, and I think a lot of things in life are timing based, and I was at that crossroads of trying to figure out what I was going to do, and I wouldn't say what's next because I always had a very good plan. Like I knew what was next. My life in state college. My wife and I, entrepreneurs. We had a couple businesses. A successful wrestling club. A lot of my livelihood and a lot of what I was doing was revolved outside of actually wrestling and competing. Wrestling competing is what I did, and I love to do that. But I, had a lot of other, entities that I did to support my family. So it wasn't like I was at a crossroads of like, what am I going to do? It was just making a choice, and when this job became available, it's like, okay, well, rather than, doing 3 or 4 different things, this is a great opportunity to do one thing. And it's a job that requires a lot of time and energy, but I think that I was, put on this earth to coach and mentor people and use my career as an example and the way to think and to compete, and have an opportunity to do that now at the highest level with the best athletes. So I think to draw into my career, it's still a little weird to think about not competing anymore, but I have like a resurgence of energy and excitement now when I come into the room that I didn't have a couple months ago when I was competing. I'm obviously still in great competitive shape to compete at a high level, and I'll be able to do that for a long time. Now I can do that with the guys, and I can help show them what that level of wrestling looks like, what they're aspiring to do, and then guide them, lead them, be in the trenches with them. So excited about that.
I know. I remember talking to Daniel Cormier after he retired from mixed martial arts because I was at his final wrestling match. But then when he retired from MMA, he had said like the hardest part is just giving up the competition because you just can't get that feeling from anything else. You can do it, you can stay, but he said the key for him was staying busy, which obviously he's been doing with working with the UFC. Obviously, your personal athletic career is done, but you are still competing. You are now competing as a coach, so that's a different kind of competition. I'm sure that still fuels you because he said, as he always said, he's like that's the thing you'll miss the most is the competition. You're not competing, but you're still competing because you're competing with your wrestlers at Oklahoma State now. So I imagine that makes it, I know it sounds easier. It's not easy, but you know what I mean.
Well, yeah. I mean, I think also just it's obviously the competitive landscape of college athletics and college sports. It's I've always wanted to be successful. I've never done anything in my life to try and get second place or just to compete. I've done it to try and compete the highest level. As a coach, like there's no competition for the best coach. The competition is how to serve your athletes the best and how to help your athletes perform at their best and help the athletes become the best at what they're trying to do. So you're competing differently, and I think having peace in my career, I have no intention to have to live vicariously through an athlete or through anybody else. Like I have peace. I did all these things. And now it's helping them, hey, if you guys want to achieve these things, we're going to help you do that. We can help guide you. There is no guesswork because, our staff was able to achieve that, So I think it's just an exciting endeavor. It's new. It's a different challenge. You're competing every day. We're competing every day in recruiting. We're competing every day, with the guys. We're competing every day, it's not, you're not personally competing on the mat anymore. So I think it's just, I think it's helping guys have that mentality, that competitive mindset, have a competitive program, and helping the guys believe, hey, if you guys want to achieve these things, we're going to believe in you and, hold you that standard, that you're doing what you can to achieve those things that you say you want to do.
Absolutely. Can I ask, like, with the Olympics coming up, is it like, again, you're in the thick of coaching, recruiting, things like that, but will you still watch the Olympics? Are you still excited for that? I mean, is it bittersweet? Because obviously, I mean, you've been around that team for so much of your life, really, for these last, more than a decade now. Like that's been a huge part of your life is getting ready for the Olympics, going to the trials, going to the Olympics, things like that. So can you still be a fan right now and just be excited for the U.S. team?
Yeah, I think that, and that's what I am. I think I just want to see these guys be successful. This team, the guys that are wrestling in the Olympics or these guys that are continuing their career post this this Olympics are guys, I've spent, like you said, the majority of my life with them, training camps, going overseas, competing with them. I mean, some of these guys I've been competing with, been friends with for majority of my lifetime, they're hungry. They're competitive. They want to go out and they want to win. And I'm excited to see that, excited to watch them compete. And hope the United States brings back 6 gold medals. I think they have the ability to do that. Truly believe that we can bring back 6 gold medals, which would, in men's freestyle, which would be pretty remarkable. But this team is prepared. It's, we have some younger guys, but they have lots of experience. They've been competing at a very high level alongside the veterans that are on the team as well. So I think it's a great team, and I encourage everybody to be watching and rooting everybody on in Paris.
This is going to be a bit of a weird question, David, because I know that at the end of the day, like, you always go out there to win, but is there a little bit of, like, I don't know, almost say relief or just like a little bit of, happiness that you passed the torch of your division to another guy from Penn State? Aaron Brooks, of course, is now going to the Olympics. He doesn't have a ton of international experience, but obviously incredible college career. Is there any like feeling of that, like you did pass the torch to another Penn State guy in a way?
Yeah, I mean, Aaron was, he's been an age group world champion he's wrestled every, U17s, U20s, U23s. He's been competing in the room alongside us for a long time. So yeah, I think Aaron is extremely skilled and extremely prepared for this moment, for sure. He believes it. He believes he can be successful. So yeah, I think it's great to see him go and compete. It is a difficult thing from a competitive standpoint, to obviously to move on from something, but knowing that the team and the country and obviously he's in good hands with Aaron, and he's going to go out and compete fiercely and the best that he possibly can, and fully has the potential to be a gold medalist, and I think he's just getting his career started. He's still young, he could do this for a long time, and he's an extremely gifted guy, and wish him all the success.
Absolutely. Let me go through a couple of the bigger storylines at this year's Olympics that I'm curious about, because I talked to Gable Steveson several months ago, and at that point he was still with WWE, and he said that he was pretty sure he was going to make another run at the Olympics again. He kind of got that itch to go again, and then things just didn't work out, timing, contracts, things like that. He wasn't able to do it again, and now Mason Paris is going to represent the United States in the Olympics. And it's funny because, obviously Mason has a ton of international experience, and obviously I think he's an incredibly talented guy. I think, obviously it would have been nice to have Gable there because he was so great in the 2020 games. And of course, I think we all know how good Gable Steveson is, especially as young as he is. But I think Mason's got a real chance to kind of pull this off. I mean, obviously he has, I think it's, he has wins over a lot of the guys in the tournament this year. I mean, obviously Petrovelli is a veteran. Amir, the guy from Iran, is obviously one of the favorites. But what do you think about Mason's chances? Because it's almost like there's this afterthought because Gable's not going, that it's almost like we're conceding heavyweight. I don't think that's the case. I think he has a great chance here.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think you want to take anything away from our guys that are competing. You field the best team that's out there, and Mason has proven that he's the best heavyweight in the United States, by going out and competing. If Gable would have competed, it could be different, but I think that Mason is he's been competing at a high level the last 3 or 4 years, and he's right there. I mean, I think he has win overs there at an age group world championship. Gino Petrovilli and Taha Ghul are the guys that have kind of been veteran, have been around for a really long time, kind of the tail end of their career. So, but I think Mason is ready to go, and Mason has a unique style too because of his size and the way that he can move, and he's pretty dynamic with his scoring sequences, and I think for him, just relying on the experience that he's had and being prepared. And Zara is, he's been very successful, but he's fairly one-dimensional, in terms of like the way he's going to wrestle. So I think just in preparation, going out and understanding, like, be able to beat the underhooks and be ready for a hard 6-minute battle. Agul and Petrovilli are more little bit also more dynamic in the way that they can score, unique for the heavyweights of their size. So Mason's got it all. I mean, he's got the skill, he's got the experience, he's got the the youth. So excited for him. Great opportunity. It's just, I think when you go in the Olympics, it is a once in a lifetime opportunity. You don't know what it's going to be like 4 years from now. You can't think maybe I'll be back in 4 years. For these guys, I think just having peace and calmness in the moment and utilizing that excitement to go out and kind of seize that moment, one match at a time. And you're 4 matches away from, changing your life forever. So.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Now, I'll be the first to admit, David, I'm a little biased in my love for 97 kilograms because Kyle Snyder has kind of been my guy since he got to Ohio State. As I mentioned, I'm at Ohio State, and when he showed up, I had people telling me, "Man, you got to watch this kid, Kyle Snyder." And so I was able to interview him and talk to him early in his career at Ohio State, and I've been with him kind of ever since in terms of like rooting for him. Became the youngest gold medalist for the United States when he won gold. Obviously, we know the rivalry he had with Sadulayev, but we also know this year Sadulayev is not going to be there. But of course, Ahmed Tadzudinov, who beat him dominantly in the Worlds, is now kind of exploded out of nowhere. He's also from Dagestan, but now representing Bahrain. Kyle now is like, it's funny because when Kyle came in, he was the youngest guy. He was 19, 20 years old coming in. Now he's 28 and he's kind of like the veteran, which is kind of funny, like how quickly that changes. What does Kyle need to do he's obviously won gold, he's won silver. What does he need to do to get back to that platform again? And can I ask, like, when you have a tough loss, like wrestling is, you're going to lose in wrestling. That's just all there is to it. You're not going to be undefeated throughout your entire career. But the way Tadzudinov beat him was kind of shocking. It was a tech fall. I don't think anyone really saw that coming at the time. So what do you think Kyle needs to do to get back on that platform and also potentially avenge that loss that he had in the Worlds?
Yeah, I think when you look back last year, I think Kyle was thinking about Sadulayev. I don't think he was really, no one was really thinking about Tadzudinov at the time. He was a young kid. He had some results, but they weren't ones that you're going to stop and really think about the way that he was competing. And obviously the way he wrestled the World Championships last year. And since then, he's been on a tear, and he's pretty, he's good because he can score in a lot of ways. He's offensively gifted, but also defensively, he's got, his chest wraps and his scrambles and his cradles. And, he's a great wrestler. I think Kyle has definitely a big, strength advantage when he wrestles Tadzudinov. I think he just needs to be very aware on his finishes. I think that was really what happened last year. There were 2 exchanges, 2 chest wraps that Tadzudinov got that I think both were 4 points. And 4-point swings in freestyle wrestling are pretty significant, especially in chest wraps. So I think for Kyle, it's just having patience on his finishing. He's going to get to the legs. He's going to get there. I think Tadzudinov is going to feel confident thinking that he's going to be able to win the exchanges and the scrambles. So I think just having patience on his finishes, being patient on the edge, and just keeping 6 minutes of pressure on him, not letting him relax. And even if you give an exchange up here or there, not feeling like you have to get all the points back at once. I think just being, patient and building over that 6 minutes. So I think, but Kyle has been this year extremely focused. Obviously he's hungry and he wants to compete well, and he's got Kyle just has this fighting spirit that I've just never really been around from other people before. He's just so focused. So this one means a lot to him, and I'm excited and to watch him compete. I feel like he's got probably a good plan, and he's got to go out and go get it.
Absolutely. I don't want you to step on a landmine here, and I hate to even, I don't really like asking this question. One thing I've always loved about wrestling on the international stage is that it really does kind of bring everyone together. We all understand we're not all going to agree on everything, especially on a political level in this world. We all understand that. But one thing I've always loved about wrestling is we kind of set that aside and just go out there and compete, where it's the best guys in the world competing against each other. There's almost like a brotherhood in that. Obviously, we know because of the conflict right now that's happening, a lot of the Russian athletes are not competing. Sadulayev is one of them, of course. Sidikov's another one. Does that, listen, this is the Olympics. Guys deal with injuries, guys deal with, all kinds of things that can happen. And this is one time, one tournament every 4 years. Something bad happens beforehand. There's nothing you can do about it. How do you feel about the fact that and obviously Russia represents a lot of great wrestlers, but a couple of the bigger names are not going to be here this year. Is that just part of the sport? We just have to roll with the punches when that happens.
Yeah, it's unfortunate, for these guys to not get a chance to wrestle, for Kyle Snyder to not get a chance to wrestle Sadulayev again, for Kyle Dake to not get a chance to wrestle Sidikov again. I think that's tough. But that is just it's just athletics, you know. Like you could get hurt, you could sprain an ankle, you could get whatever it may be. Also, this year's Olympics, you know, it's just not what it used to be because a lot of the depth in Russia transferred to other countries. So it's not like you're just wrestling one Russian. You know, back in the day, it was Soviet Union. You wrestled one Russian that made up all the Russian countries. You know, since then, you know, those guys, they might live in Dagestan like Tazadina, right? Or Makhachkala or Ossetia, or wherever they be. They might live and train there, but they represent all of those other countries. They've done that for the last, really my entire competitive career. And then this year, more than ever, now the really good ones, the ones that were second or third that had a lot of depth in those countries, in Russia, have left. And they're wrestling for Bahrain, they're wrestling for Azerbaijan, they're wrestling for Uzbekistan, they're wrestling for France, Italy, you know, like Greece. So like they're going and they're finding other places that they want to wrestle. So a lot of these brackets are made up of 6-8 Russians anyways. So maybe one is not going to be there, but you're still wrestling a lot of other good ones. I think at 74 kilo, I think at one time there was like 10 Russians in that weight class, 16 guys, 10 Russians. So I think that I think the illusion is that, oh, well, it's not as tough. This is going to still be the toughest Olympics there's ever been because of that, because you're wrestling these guys that have transferred. When COVID happened, these guys were able to just go these other countries there was basically nothing because they had no credential. And UWW, I believe like the fee to transfer is based on your credentials. When there was no competition, there were no credentials from the year before. These guys could just go to these other countries for essentially nothing. So the depth just is spread out. You know, it's still consolidated amongst a couple countries, United States, Iran, Russia, but you just wrestle now. Americans are wrestling for other countries. Russians are wrestling for other countries. And then you have the Iranians. That's making up most of the depth of those brackets. So I think it's going to be still very competitive. So these guys got to be ready to scrap.
I mean, Tazadino is a perfect example. He's from Dagestan. That's where Sajjalaya is from. And of course, he's representing Bahrain. You still got the guy right there. I mentioned earlier, of course, Aaron Brooks, you know, it's weird because Aaron doesn't have a huge amount of international experience, but I still, everywhere I've read and everywhere I've researched and me just watching the sport, he's still considered, you know, the top guy. Now, obviously, is Donnie, guy you're very, very familiar with. Like, what, in your opinion, what does Aaron need to do to keep this momentum going? Because it's tough, right? Like, it's tough to go straight from the NCAA's Olympic trials and into the Olympics and win. Now, it's been done. I mean, it absolutely has been done, but it's not easy. None of it's easy. And it's always considered, I'll go back to Kyle Snyder. It's always a bit of an upset when it happens, when he won. You know, obviously he won his gold when he was very young. So what does Aaron need to do to keep this momentum going and kind of go out there and seal the deal? Because he's still being considered like the top guy, but obviously this is the Olympics are a different animal.
Yeah, I mean, I think Aaron was my training partner in Tokyo. So he came with me, he experienced it, he was around it. So I think that was really valuable for him to kind of be there, see it, be a part of that training. And then, so it's not like this is his first time going. You know, I think he's been there. I think in his mind, when he was there, he came back from that and being like, all right, I'm next, you know, and that mentality is what makes him unique and special. And pairing that with obviously his wrestling abilities. So yeah, I mean, I think just going out there with that same mentality, don't change. Like he competes hard, you know, and I think that's going to be the biggest thing that is his biggest advantage, because a lot of these guys haven't wrestled Aaron before, you know, and he just can score in a lot of areas. So I think specifically with him and Yazdani, they have a similar style. Aaron is just a more dynamic style of what Yazdani does. You know, Yazdani is an underhook guy. Aaron's underhooks, but he is very dynamic in the way that he can score in addition to the underhooks. You know, he's got outside step, he's got ankle pick, he can cover ground. Like he just got really good baseline defense. So for him, it's just go be himself, go compete the way that he competes. And, he's got a great opportunity to go win a gold medal.
Kyle Dake is a guy that I've been following for many, many years. And, again, this is the unpredictability of the Olympics in 2020 or technically 2021 when the Olympics happened. If I said I was going to bet on any two guys to win gold on our team, it would have been you and it would have been Kyle Dake. I just thought you guys had the absolute best shot at it. And I remember watching when he lost early on. I was like, whoa, this just blew me away. Now, of course, he battled back and won a bronze. But, Kyle waited. Kyle was not, Kyle had to battle to get his spot. Jordan Burroughs, all those things that went on. Like, he really had to battle to even get here. And I've said this to a lot of wrestlers from America. I said, if you look at some of our weight divisions, we could easily send, like you talk about Russians, we could easily send 2 or 3 guys to the Olympics if everyone decided they wanted to go represent other countries, because some of our divisions are so incredibly deep. But Kyle, obviously, like, this is, I don't want to say it's for sure, his last shot at getting gold, but obviously, age matters and time matters, things like that. So at 33, I think we have to imagine this is probably the last one for him. What do you feel like Kyle needs to do to go out there and kind of cement that legacy and win that gold medal? Because he's done everything, 4 world titles, all the NCAA titles, his careers. I mean, he's already made history. Let me be clear about that. Like, he doesn't need to do anything else to cement his place in history. But having talked to Kyle, I know he wants to be a gold medalist. I know he wants to win that gold.
Yeah, I mean, I think the same kind of thing goes with these guys. Is you just got to go be yourself. Go do what you do best. And Kyle Dake is he's just the most gifted all around wrestler that I've ever been around. Speed, strength, just like his vision when he's wrestling. He's offensively gifted, defensively gifted. He can win the scramble. So for him, I think it's just. It doesn't have to be perfect for him. It doesn't have to be perfect. It can be imperfect and still wrestle because that he has that ability. And I think going out and just creating those wrestling positions are going to benefit him. But I think he's just very driven. And I think in his mind, like he's ready to rock. I think what happened to him in Tokyo was just a weird circumstance, it's a weird match. It just kind of got away from him, and I think sometimes in wrestling that stuff happens. It was tough that happened at that event for him, but he battled back, like you said, and got bronze. But just, yeah, I mean, I think there's really not even anything different that he needs to go do outside of just doing what he's done for a really long time. And it sounds vague and simple, but I mean, that's a guy of his caliber. You just go be yourself, and you got to go score. You got to defend. And he can do all that stuff. He's done it for a long time, and excited for him to go do that now.
Absolutely. And we qualified every weight class this year, which is awesome. Obviously, Spencer Lee and Zane Rutherford kind of wrapping things up. 6 divisions. And I said this in my Olympic preview I said, I think, between this and obviously with the women's team, you got young people like obviously, Amit Allure out there who's 20 years old, just absolutely killing it. Of course, Helen Maroulis on that side, Sarah Hildebrand going back, some really, really strong wrestlers over there. When the 2020 games that took place in 2021, that was the most medals the American team had ever won. It was an incredible performance, but this year, I think we have a chance to potentially win even more, and I think Spencer and Zane have a chance to pull off some upsets there. Overall, David, like how strong do you feel this US team is in terms of freestyle with the 12 divisions? With 6 women, 6 men, because I feel like will everyone win gold? Of course not. Not everyone's going to win gold, but I feel like we do have a chance to really continue to show our dominance on the international level at this Olympics, because as I said, I truly do believe there's at least 3 or 4 divisions across men and women where we could send 2, maybe 3 Olympians based upon, just pure talent, and just unfortunately because we only get send one person. But I think the talent pool is incredibly deep this year.
Yeah. Our development system in our country is very strong with the youth clubs and the development, through the age group world championships, the U15s of the Pan Ams, U17s, the world championships, U20s, U23s. So I think any single person that makes the team in the United States, their level is it's world level. It's you have the ability and the expectation to go, be the best in the world. And I think that's kind of where every single person is. I think there's not a person that made this Olympic team that doesn't believe they're going to go win gold. I think every single person has that expectation of themselves. And I think some people say it, and there's other people that, believe it. I think I would say all 12 of them have that mentality. It's a very, veteran, even these younger kids that are coming up through, they've had a lot of experience. They've wrestled everybody. So the biggest thing is just obviously some people are maybe a little bit different weight class than what they were at the World Championships, but in the years prior, but they made this Olympic team and they've had really good training cycles. And I think everybody's really excited. So for everybody sitting at home, you want to watch great wrestling, you want to support our country, watch. It's going to be on Peacock. It's going to be, streamed and on TV. And, obviously just a great chance to root on our country. And, for MMA fans, when these people are done, a lot of them are going to go fight in MMA, I'm sure, when they're finished. So it's a great chance to get to know these names now.
I have said it numerous times to people because when 2020 was around, I convinced my bosses, let me write some highlights. Let me do some things. I got to write about you and I got to write about Gable and things like that. But this year they said, hey, do you want to do full Olympic coverage? And I said, you could not sign me up faster. So I'm just so excited that I get to just focus on wrestling during the 2024 Olympics and just cover it from start to finish. I'm so excited to get to do it. David, obviously you're ramping up right now. Your coaching has already started. How can you give me just your feeling as this season comes up? I mean, I know obviously we're still several months away, but just your anticipation, your first year coaching. I know, again, coaching doesn't stop just because the season is over and you're still ramping up and getting settled there. So how excited are you for your first official season coaching at Oklahoma State and bringing the squad, to the mats and letting them perform? Because Oklahoma State, of course, we know has an incredibly rich history with John Smith. I know you're going to put a great team out there, but how excited are you to see your guys go out there and start competing?
Excited. I think, we're putting a lot of work this off season, just in times of it's new transition for the guys, new transition for our staff. It's developing that trust and ultimately, just like anything else, you just got to put the time into it. We're developing new systems, we're developing ways to wrestle in different situations. So it's exciting. I think the sport of wrestling as a whole is excited about this change, this momentum that we have moving forward. And but wrestling matches are won on the wrestling mat, right? And I think that's kind of what we got to prepare guys for. We have a tough schedule coming up this year, and I think just there's a lot of excitement, and I think just with the guys, just helping them have clarity in what they're trying to do and what they're trying to achieve, what we're trying to achieve as a program. If we go out and compete with the right mentality, I think that obviously can be very successful. So that's the difference about coaching. It's you can think it, but you got to help your guys believe it and instill that trust amongst each other. As a competitor, it's just up to you. You step out there, it's up to you. As a coach, it's not really up to you anymore. You got to give the guys the skills and the tools and help them be prepared and instill that confidence in them so they can go out and do it. So, but we're excited about that process and, looking forward to getting the season started.
Well, David, you've been one of the best American wrestlers for many, many years. Your legacy as a wrestler is set in stone. What you did during your career cannot be touched, and you are incredible and been a huge ambassador for the sport in America. And I think you're going to do exactly the same as a coach. As soon as you signed, I was like, oh man, everyone else in that division just got in trouble because David Taylor's about to take Oklahoma State and win some championships very, very soon. So man, best of luck in the season coming up. Obviously, I think you're going to do incredibly great things. I think you're destined for that. And thank you for taking a little time for me today, chat with me and kind of preview the Olympics with me. I really appreciate it, man. Can't wait to see what you do next. And looking forward to Oklahoma State this season. And I'll go ahead and let you keep OSU for a little while longer. I won't give it back to Tom Ryan just yet.
All right. That sounds good. Thank you guys. Appreciate it.
Absolutely, Dave. We'll talk soon.
All right. Bye.